Hey Linda, how are you? Welcome in. Hey Sarah. Oh, got to adjust my mic because I had it in a different position because it was recording all day. Hi Leela, how are you? Johnny, you're right on time today, man. Good job. I appreciate you being here. I don't know how big of a night this is going to be, given that it's Memorial Day. So, we shall see. UK is in the house. Good evening. And how are we today? Ah, so you've been untied. That's good. Anytime. I'm glad you're here. That's what I've heard. My daughter was telling me that her and her friends went to the beach today, so yeah. It's been really hot. That's all right. Yeah, that's she told me it was about 30 degrees C out there. Is the music too loud? Is it overpowering my voice? I always worry about that because I don't think it plays in my headset as loud or as quiet as it does on the stream. Okay, cool. Nice. Thank you for sharing, and thank you guys for the likes. Ricardo, thank you for the shares, my friend. Crazy Mama's in the house. I see you. Hey, Wings. Hey, Katie. How we doing? Hey, Amy. How are you? Tina, good evening. Welcome in. Teresa, I see you. Thank you. Yeah, it was like 50 degrees today, too. It was crazy here in Rochester, so. Heard of the calf in Abilene, Texas. I can't say that I have. I am doing all right. I am doing all right. Thank you. So, Crazy Mama, you got a report? How was your daughter's parade? How did she do? Oh, okay, cool. Oh, that's awesome. I am so happy for her and for you. Oh, nice. I almost went to RIT. It's a great school. I have a good friend of mine that actually works there. I bet. One proud mama. I know that feeling. Well, one proud papa. I know that feeling. Crazy weather in the UK. Yeah, we were just talking about that, how it's freaking hot. That's amazing. Happy birthday, Gabby. That's awesome. Hey, Sunshine, how are you? Yeah, it's supposed to be warm here tomorrow. Oh, goodbye. It's a good movie. That is a good movie. Hiding from the sun tomorrow. Yeah, definitely. So I was saying a little bit ago, I don't know how big the crowd is going to be tonight, just because it is Memorial Day, so we're dealing with we're I swear I could be able to talk tonight. This is not well. So yeah, this is so. Saturday was technically the last daily live, but yes, I was actually live yesterday and today as well. So, hey Trista, how are you? I'm kind of sort of going back to my regular schedule. Today is sort of a test. Hey Lynn, how are you? I'm testing out a Monday stream because last Monday went so well that I thought, you know, what the hell, we'll give it a try. And so I did what I usually don't do, which is usually I start a kid's book and then I don't continue it until the following week. But because Winnie the Pooh is a 2-session book, I started it last night. We're going to finish it tonight. The days I go live regularly is Sunday, Wednesday, Friday. And they're always at 9 p.m. Eastern. You should call your grandkids. Would love to have them. I'm probably going to be doing Mondays. This is already, there's already 78 of you in here, so that's pretty cool. And adding Monday at 9 p.m. Eastern. So it's going to be, it's an additional night, but it's going to allow me to do two things. It's going to allow me to read children's books that are a little bit longer and still only take like 4 weeks. And 4 weeks will be 8 sessions instead of 4 sessions. But I'll also be able to do... Hello, Nightshade, how are you? I'll also be able to do longer adult books. So, or James Patterson. Yes, maybe. We shall see. But I will be doing a poll later after we finish Winnie the Pooh. And you guys will get to vote on the next children's book. Hey, Buford, how are you, sir? You enjoying this stupid weather we're having? You guys do love polls. I apologize, Trista. There will be no James Patterson on the list. Not this time. You'll be asleep. That is okay. Well, you may not be, depending on, because we only have 4 chapters left. So we might finish before you fall asleep. It's option 3. Oh, I'm probably going to have 4 options tonight and let you guys pick. So I like kind of hope that there's like a lot of people in here so that we can just have this big, well, 2 things. I didn't like Ready Player One. But that's always a possibility, yeah. Charlotte's Web the other day changed me. I was crying. Yeah, that's a tough one. That hits hard. I'm glad you were here for it, though. Yes, it's nobody believes me when I say I didn't like Ready Player One because I'm Gen X. I should love it, right? I thought it was dumb. I'll be honest with you. I honestly thought it was kind of dumb. But that's just me. Charlotte's Web is one of my all-time favorites. If I had to list of top 10 favorite books, not just children's books, but books in general, Charlotte's Web would absolutely be on that list. It's one of my absolute favorites books. Well, it is 8 after 9, and there's 100 people in here, so welcome everybody. Welcome. I am glad you're all here tonight. Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Storytime with UndeadPapa. This is a test stream. We're going to I don't normally do Mondays, but I did a Monday last week for my birthday week, and it went really well. So I figured, what the hell, we'll give it a try out and see what happens. So we started Winnie the Pooh last night, which is also one of my favorite books, and we're going to be finishing it tonight. Oh, hey, Stephanie. Well, welcome. We're happy to have you. This is a really nice, cozy week. Cozy. That's not what I meant to say. This is a really nice, cozy space. Everybody is really nice. Just a great bunch of regulars that come in here. So, slowly becoming my favorite people. Well, no, a lot of you are my favorite. You are my favorite people because I wouldn't be doing this without it. So, this is your birthday week, Tenley? Awesome. Happy birthday. Well, Stephanie, happy birthday. My birthday was last Tuesday. All right. Well, so tonight we conclude our journey. The Shadow Dog, I am glad for you to be here as well. I appreciate you. Hey, Casey. Thank you guys for the birthday wishes. Absolutely. So last night we ended off with Eeyore having his birthday, and he received a empty honey pot from Winnie the Pooh, and from Piglet he received a broken balloon. But he was super happy because he was able to put the balloon in the pot. Yes, Crazy Mama. I can't wait. Thank you. I am not on Spotify. Well, I mean, I have a Spotify membership, but I'm not on there as like a creator or anything. So tonight we move on with chapter 7. So, yeah. Wherever you're listening from, dim the lights, sit back, and relax, because story time is about to begin. I forgot my script. so I'm kind of winging it tonight. That wasn't like Mondays are not my normal night, but we'll do that next week. All right, Coco, I am glad you are locked in. Well, this is A.A. Milne's Winnie the Pooh. Chapter 7, in which Kanga and Baby Roo come to the forest, and Piglet has a bath. Nobody seemed to know where they came from, but there they were in the forest, Kanga and Baby Roo. When Pooh asked Christopher Robin, "How did they come here?" Christopher Robin said, "In the usual way, if you know what I mean, Pooh." And Pooh, who didn't, said, "Oh." Then he nodded his head twice and said, "In the usual way. Ah." Then he went to call upon his friend Piglet to see what he thought about it. And at Piglet's house he found Rabbit, so they all talked about it together. "What I don't like about it is this," said Rabbit. "Here we are, you, Pooh, and you, Piglet, and me, and suddenly—" "And Eeyore," said Pooh. "And Eeyore, and suddenly, and I'm getting mixed up here. There's too many voices. And Owl," said Pooh. "And Owl, and then all of a sudden—" "Oh, and Eeyore," said Pooh. "I was forgetting him." "Here we are," said Rabbit very slowly and carefully. "All of us. And then, suddenly, we wake up one morning. What do we find? We find a strange animal among us. An animal of whom we have never even heard of before. An animal who carries her family about with her in her pocket. Suppose I carried my family about with me in my pocket. How many pockets should I want?" 16, said Piglet. 17, isn't it?" said Rabbit.
And one more for a handkerchief. That's 18. 18 pockets in one suit. I haven't time."
There was a long and thoughtful silence, and then Pooh, who had been frowning very hard for some minutes, said, "I make it 15.
"What?" said Rabbit.
15.
15 what?
Your family."
"What about them?"
Pooh rubbed his nose and said that he thought Rabbit had been talking about his family.
"Did I?" said Rabbit carelessly.
"Yes, you said—"
"Never mind, Pooh. The question is, what are we to do about Kanga?"
"Oh, I see."
"The best way," said Rabbit, "would be this. The best way would be to steal Baby Roo and hide him, and then when Kanga says, 'Where's Baby Roo?' we say, 'Aha!'"
"Aha!" said Pooh, practicing. "Aha! Aha!" Of course, he went on, we would say, "Aha!" even if we hadn't stolen Baby Roo.
"Pooh," said Rabbit kindly, "you haven't any brain."
"I know," said Pooh humbly.
"We say 'aha' so that Kanga knows that we know where Baby Roo is. 'Aha' means we'll tell you where Baby Roo is if you promise to go away from the forest and never come back. Now, don't talk while I think."
Pooh went into a corner and tried saying "aha" in that sort of voice. Sometimes it seemed to him that it did mean what Rabbit said, and sometimes it seemed to him that it didn't. "I suppose it's just practice," he thought. "I wonder if Kanga will have to practice too, so as to understand it."
"There's just one thing," said Piglet, fidgeting a bit. "I was talking to Christopher Robin, and he said that a Kanga was generally regarded as one of the fiercer animals. I am not frightened of fierce animals in the ordinary way, but it is well known that if one of the fiercer animals is deprived of its young, it becomes as fierce as two of the fiercer animals, in which case 'aha' is perhaps a foolish thing to say."
"Piglet," said Rabbit, taking out a pencil and licking the end of it, "you haven't any pluck."
"It is very hard to be afraid," said Piglet. It is very hard to be brave," said Piglet, sniffing slightly, "when you're only a very small animal."
Rabbit, who had begun to write very busily, looked up and said,
"It is because you are a very small animal that you will be useful in the adventure before us."
Piglet was so excited at the idea of being useful that he forgot to be frightened any more. And when Rabbit went on to say that Kangas were only fierce during the winter months, being at other times of an affectionate disposition, he could hardly sit still. He was so eager to begin being useful at once. "What about me?" said Pooh sadly. "Suppose I shan't be useful?"
"Never mind, Pooh," said Piglet comfortably. "Another time, perhaps." "Without Pooh," said Rabbit solemnly as he sharpened his pencil, "the adventure would be impossible."
"Oh," said Piglet, and tried not to look disappointed. But Pooh went into a corner of the room and said proudly to himself, "Impossible without me. That sort of bear."
"Now listen, all of you,"
said Rabbit when he had finished writing, and Pooh and Piglet sat listening very eagerly with their mouths open. This was what Rabbit read out. "Plan to capture Baby Roo. 1. General remarks. Kanga runs faster than any of us, even me. 2. More general remarks. Kanga never takes her eye off Baby Roo,
except when he's safely buttoned up in her pocket. Therefore, if we are to capture Baby Roo, we must get a long start, because Kanga runs faster than any of us, even me, see 1. 4. A thought. If Roo had jumped out of Kanga's pocket and Piglet jumped in, Kanga wouldn't know the difference, because Piglet is a very small animal. 5. Like Roo. 6. But Kanga would have to be looking the other way first, so as not to see Piglet jumping in. 7. C2. 8. Another thought. But if Pooh was talking to her very excitedly, she might look the other way for a moment. 9. And then I could run away with Roo. 10. Quickly. 11. And Kanga wouldn't discover the difference until afterwards. Spectacular plan. Well, Rabbit read this out proudly, and for a little while after he had read it, nobody said anything. And then Piglet, who had been opening and shutting his mouth without making any noise, managed to say very huskily, "And afterwards?" "How do you mean?" "When Kanga does discover the difference." "Then we all say, 'Aha!'" "All 3 of us?" "Yes." "Oh." "Why, what's the trouble, Piglet?" "Nothing," said Piglet. As long as we all 3 say it, said Piglet. "I don't mind," he said. "But I shouldn't care to say 'Aha!' by myself. It wouldn't sound nearly so well. By the way," he said, "you are quite sure about what you said about the winter months?" "The winter months?" "Yes, only being fierce in the winter months." "Oh, yes, that's all right. Well, Pooh, you see what you have to do?" "No," said Pooh Bear. "Not yet," he said. "What do I do?" "Well, you just have to talk very hard to Kanga so as she doesn't notice anything." "Oh, about what?" "Anything you like." "You mean like telling her a little bit of poetry or something?" "That's it," said Rabbit. "Splendid. Now come along." So they all went out to look for Kanga. Kanga and Roo were spending a quiet afternoon in a sandy part of the forest. Baby Roo was practicing very small jumps in the sand, and Kanga was fidgeting about and saying, "Just one more jump, dear, and then we must go home." And at that moment, who should come stumping up the hill but Pooh. "Good afternoon, Kanga." "Oh, good afternoon, Pooh." "Look at me jumping," squeaked Roo, and fell into another mouse hole. "Oh, hello, Roo, my little fellow." "We were just going home," said Kanga. "Good afternoon, Rabbit. Good afternoon, Piglet." Rabbit and Piglet, who had now come up from the other side of the hill, said, "Good afternoon," and "Hello, Roo," and Roo asked them to look at him jumping, so they stayed and looked, and Kanga looked too. "Oh, Kanga," said Pooh, after Rabbit had winked at him twice, "I don't know if you are interested in poetry at all." "Hardly at all," said Kanga. "Oh," said Pooh. "Roo, dear, just one more jump, and then we must go home." There was a short silence while Roo fell down another mouse-hole. "Go on," said Rabbit in a loud whisper behind his paw. "Talking of poetry," said Pooh, "I made up a little piece as I was coming along. It went like this. Now, let me see." "Fancy," said Kanga. "Now, Roo, dear." "You'll like this piece of poetry," said Rabbit. "You'll love it," said Piglet. You must listen very carefully, said Rabbit, so as not to miss any of it, said Piglet. Oh, yes, said Kanga, but she still looked at Baby Roo. How did it go, Pooh? Pooh gave a little cough and began. Lines written by a bear of very little brain. On Monday, when the sun is hot, I wonder to myself a lot. Now is it true or is it not, that what is which and which is what? On Tuesday, when it hails and snows, the feeling on me grows and grows, that hardly nobody knows if those are these and these are those. On Wednesday, when the sky is blue and I have nothing else to do, sometimes I wonder if it's true that who is what and what is who. On Thursday, when it starts to freeze and the hoarfrost twinkles on the trees, how very readily one sees that these are whose, but whose are these. On Friday— Yes, it is, isn't it? Said Kanga, not wanting to hear what happened on Friday. Just one more jump, Roo dear, and then we really must be going. Rabbit gave Pooh a hurrying up sort of nudge. Talking of poetry, said Pooh quickly, have you ever noticed that tree over there? Where? Said Kanga. Now, Roo— Right over there, said Pooh, pointing behind Kanga's back. No, said Kanga. Now jump in, Roo dear, and we'll go home. You ought to look at that tree right over there, said Rabbit. I shall lift you in, Roo, and he picked up Roo in his paws. I can see a bird in it from here, said Pooh. Or is it a fish? You ought to see that bird from here, said Rabbit, unless it's a fish. It isn't a fish, it's a bird, said Piglet. So it is. Is it a starling or a blackbird? Said Pooh. That's the whole question, said Rabbit. Is it a blackbird or a starling? And then at last Kanga did turn her head to look, and the moment that her head was turned, Rabbit said in a loud voice, In you go, Roo! And in jumped Piglet into Kanga's pocket, and off scampered Rabbit with Roo in his paws as fast as he could. Why, where's Rabbit? Said Kanga, turning round again. Are you all right, Roo, dear? Piglet made a squeaky Roo noise from the bottom of Kanga's pocket. Rabbit had to go away, said Pooh. I think he thought of something he had to go and see about suddenly. And Piglet? I think Piglet thought of something at the same time suddenly. Well, we must be getting home, said Kanga. Goodbye, Pooh. And in 3 large jumps she was gone. Pooh looked after her as she went. I wish I could jump like that, he thought. Some can and some can't. That's how it is. But there were moments when Piglet wished that Kanga couldn't. Often, when he had had a long walk home through the forest, he had wished that he were a bird. But now he thought jerkily to himself at the bottom of Kanga's pocket, If there is flying, I shall never really take to it. And as he went up in the air, he said, Ooh! And as he came down, he said, Ow! And he was saying, Ooh, ow, ooh, ow, ooh, ow, all the way to Kanga's house. Of course, as soon as Kanga unbuttoned her pocket, she saw what had happened. Just for a moment she thought she was frightened, and then she knew she wasn't, for she felt quite sure that Christopher Robin would never let anything harm, oh my goodness, I can't talk today, would never let any harm happen to Roo. So she said to herself, If they are having a joke with me, I will have a joke with them. Now then, Roo dear, she said, as she took Piglet out of her pocket. Bedtime. Aha! Said Piglet as well as he could after this terrifying journey. But it wasn't a very good aha, and Kanga didn't seem to understand what it meant. Bath first, said Kanga in a cheerful tone. Aha! Said Piglet again, looking around anxiously for the others. But the others weren't there. Rabbit was playing with Baby Roo in his own house, and feeling more fond of him every minute. And Pooh, who had decided to be a Kanga, was still at the sandy place on top of the forest, practicing jumps. I'm not at all sure, said Kanga in a thoughtful voice, that it wouldn't be a good idea to have a cold bath this evening. Would you like that, Roo dear? Piglet, who had never been really fond of baths, shuddered a long, indignant shudder, and said in as brave a voice as he could, Kanga, I see the time has come to speak plainly. Funny little Roo, said Kanga as she got the bath water ready. I am not Roo, said Piglet loudly. I am Piglet. Yes, dear, yes, said Kanga soothingly, and imitating Piglet's voice, too. So clever of him. She went on as she took a large bar of yellow soap out of the cupboard. What will he be doing next? Can't you see? Shouted Piglet. Haven't you got eyes? Look at me. I am looking, Roo dear, said Kanga rather severely. And you know what I told you yesterday about making faces? If you go on making faces like Piglet's, you will grow up to look like Piglet. And then think how sorry you will be. Now then, into the bath, and don't let me have to speak to you about it again. Before he knew where he was, Piglet was in the bath, and Kanga was scrubbing him firmly with a large, lathery flannel. "Ow!" cried Piglet. "Let me out! I'm Piglet!" "Don't open the mouth, dear, or the soap goes in," said Kanga. "There, what did I tell you?" You did it on purpose," spluttered Piglet as soon as he could speak again, and then accidentally had another mouthful of leathery flannel. "That's right, dear. Don't say anything," said Kanga. And in another minute Piglet was out of the bath and being rubbed dry with a towel. "Now," said Kanga, "there's your medicine, and then bed." What, medicine?" said Piglet. "To make you grow big and strong, dear. You don't want to grow up small and weak like Piglet, do you? Well, then." At that moment there was a knock at the door. "Come in," said Kanga, and in came Christopher Robin. "Christopher Robin! Christopher Robin!" cried Piglet. "Tell Kanga who I am. She keeps saying I'm Roo. I'm not Roo, am I?" Christopher Robin looked at him very carefully and shook his head. "You can't be Roo," he said, "because I've just seen Roo playing in Rabbit's house." "Well," said Kanga, "fancy that. Fancy my making a mistake like that." "There you are," said Piglet. "I told you so. I'm Piglet." Christopher Robin shook his head again. "Oh, you're not Piglet," he said. "I know Piglet well, and he's quite a different color." Piglet began to say that this was because he had just had a bath, and then he thought that perhaps he wouldn't say that, and as he opened his mouth to say something, Kanga slipped the medicine spoon in, and then patted him on the back and told him that it was really a quite nice taste when you got used to it. "I knew it wasn't Piglet," said Kanga. "I wonder who it can be." Perhaps some relation of Pooh's, said Christopher Robin. What about a nephew or an uncle or something? Kanga agreed that this was probably what it was, and said that they would all have to call it by some name. I shall call it Pootel, said Christopher Robin. Henry Pootel for short. And just when it was decided, Henry Pootel wriggled out of Kanga's arms and jumped to the ground. To his great joy, Christopher Robin had left the door open. Never had Henry Pootel Piglet run so fast as he ran then, and he didn't stop running until he had got quite close to his house. But when he was 100 yards away, he stopped running and rolled the rest of the way home so as to get his own nice, comfortable color again. So Kanga and Roo stayed in the forest, and every Tuesday Roo spent the day with his great friend Rabbit, and every Tuesday Kanga spent the day with her great friend Pooh, teaching him to jump, and every Thursday Piglet spent the day with his great friend Christopher Robin, so they were all happy again. Wow, thank you guys for being here. Wow, there's 175 of you. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I am glad you guys were all here. We didn't get this kind of crowd last night, so thank you so much. Hey, DK, how we doing, brother? Hey, Rita, how are you? I'm so glad you guys are all here. I really wasn't thinking it was going to be a big crowd tonight because of Memorial Day, but I guess you guys are all done eating and, so. Well, thank you guys. I really appreciate it. Well, you are very welcome, and thank you for being here. And I say that and I mean it very much because I enjoy the crap out of this. It's probably my favorite part of the week is coming in here and reading stories. Well, the cool thing is because Winnie the Pooh is now public domain, I can actually, come on, brain. I can actually leave this up on YouTube, and I can even do my own audiobook version of it. Yeah, Sunshine, I would say Monday's probably it passed the test, so I think we're going to be doing more Mondays. But yeah. Thumbelina. Okay. I don't have that one, but I can certainly find it. Do I have samples for sale? What kind of samples would you be referring to? I do have audiobooks. If you go and search for my name, Disney didn't have a choice. The original, they have the rights to their version of it. They do not have the rights to the original novels. So they are actually two separate entities. They lost copyright on Steamboat Willie. The very first Mickey Mouse cartoon. What's interesting is you can use the Steamboat Willie music, the actual video, the film itself, but it has to be that version of Mickey Mouse. So, oh, Amy, I'm glad. I'm glad. So, yeah, copyright is an interesting animal, man. I'm telling you. So, but well, thank you guys for all being here. I am gonna continue reading. Awesome. Oh, Tilly, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you made it. All right, well, let's get back to it. Chapter 8, in which Christopher Robin leads an expedition to the North Pole.
If you go on Audible and you can find my audiobooks under the name Jeremy Thompson. And if you go on YouTube, you can find, you can look for me under UndeadPapa. It's the same there. And I have YouTube channel and I have some audiobooks up there. I'm slowly building that up. So, yeah. Pretty prestigious. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to brag, but yeah, I kind of do get a lot of compliments on my voice, which is good because I do this professionally. So, listening from Scotland, wonderful. There's some UK people in here too. All right. Well, and I do have to put a list of the stories and links to and everything up. I got to put that all up on my website, which I am terribly lacking. Philadelphia, Philly in the house. All right. I'm going to get back to it. Chapter 8, in which Christopher Robin leads an expedition to the North Pole. One fine day, Pooh had stumped up to the top of the forest to see if his friend Christopher Robin was interested in bears at all. At breakfast that morning, a simple meal of marmalade spread lightly over a honeycomb or two, he had suddenly thought of a new song. It began like this: "Sing ho for the life of a bear." When he had got as far as this, he stretched his head and thought to himself, "That's a very good start for a song, but what about the second line?" He tried to sing "ho" 2 or 3 times, but it didn't seem to help. "Perhaps it would be better," he thought, "if I sang hi for the life of a bear." So he sang it, but it wasn't. "Very well, then," he said. "I shall sing that first line twice, and perhaps if I sing it very quickly, I shall find myself singing the third and fourth lines before I have time to think of them, and that will be a good song. Now then, sing ho for the life of a bear, sing ho for the life of a bear. I don't much mind if it rains or snows, 'cause I've got a lot of honey on my nice new nose. I don't much care if it snows or thaws, 'cause I've got a lot of honey on my nice clean paws. Sing ho for a bear, sing ho for a Pooh, and I'll have a little something in an hour or two." He was so pleased with this song that he sang it all the way to the top of the forest, and if I go on singing it much longer, he thought, it will be time for the little something, and then the last line won't be true. Oh, God, excuse me. And then the last line won't be true. So he turned it into a hum instead. Christopher Robin was sitting outside his door, putting on his big boots. As soon as he saw the big boots, Pooh knew that an adventure was going to happen, and he brushed the honey off his nose with the back of his paw and spruced himself up as well as he could, so as to look ready for anything. "Good morning, Christopher Robin," he called out. "Hello, Pooh Bear. I can't get this boot on." "That's bad," said Pooh. "Do you think you could very kindly lean against me, 'cause I keep pulling so hard that I fall over backwards?" Pooh sat down, dug his feet into the ground, and pushed hard against Christopher Robin's back. And Christopher Robin pushed hard against his, and pulled at his boot until he got it on. "And that's that," said Pooh. "What do we do next?" "We are all going on an expedition," said Christopher Robin, as he got up and brushed himself. "Thank you, Pooh." "Going on an expedition?" said Pooh eagerly. "I don't think I've ever been on one of those. Where are we going on this expedition?"
Expedition, silly old bear. It's got an X in it. Oh, said Pooh. I know, but he didn't really. We're going to discover the North Pole. Oh, said Pooh again. What is the North Pole? He said. It's just a thing you discover, said Christopher Robin carelessly, not being quite sure himself. Oh, I see, said Pooh. Are bears any good at discovering it? Well, of course they are. And Rabbit and Kanga and all of you. It's an expedition. That's what an expedition means. A long line of everybody. You'd better tell the others to get ready while I see if my gun's all right. And we must all bring provisions. Bring what? Things to eat. Oh, said Pooh happily. I thought you said provisions. I'll go and tell them. And he stumped off. The first person he met was Rabbit. Hello, Rabbit, he said. Is that you? Let's pretend it isn't, said Rabbit, and see what happens. I've got a message for you. I'll give it to him. We're all going on an expedition with Christopher Robin. What is it when we're on it? A sort of boat, I think, said Pooh. Oh, that sort. Yes, and we're going to discover a pole or something. Or was it a mole? Anyhow, we're going to discover it. We are we? Said Rabbit. Yes, and we've got to bring things to eat with us, in case we want to eat them. Now I'm going down to Piglet's. Tell Kanga, will you? He left Rabbit and hurried down to Piglet's house. The piglet was sitting on the ground at the door of his house, blowing happily at a dandelion, and wondering whether it would be this year, next year, sometime, or never. He had just discovered that it would be never, and was trying to remember what if was, and hoping it wasn't anything nice, when Pooh came up. Oh, Piglet, said Pooh excitedly. We're going on an expedition. All of us, with things to eat, to discover something. To discover what? Said Piglet anxiously. Oh, just something. Nothing fierce. Christopher Robin didn't say anything about fierce. He just said it had an X. Isn't there necks? It isn't their necks I mind, said Piglet earnestly. It's their teeth. But if Christopher Robin is coming, I don't mind anything. In a little while they were all ready at the top of the forest, and the expedition started. First came Christopher Robin and Rabbit, then Piglet and Pooh, then Kanga with Roo in her pocket, and Owl, then Eeyore, and at the end, in a long line, all Rabbit's friends and relations. I didn't ask them, explained Rabbit carelessly. They just came. They always do. They can march at the end after Eeyore.
What I say, said Eeyore, is that it's unsettling. I didn't want to come on this expo... what Pooh said. I only came to oblige. But here I am. And if I am at the end of the expo, what we're talking about, then let me be the end. But if every time I want to sit down for a little rest I have to brush away a half a dozen of Rabbit's smaller friends and relations first, then this isn't an expo, whatever it is, at all. It's simply a confused noise. That's what I say. I see what Eeyore means, said Owl. If you ask me... I'm not asking anybody, said Eeyore. I'm just telling everybody.
We can look for the North Pole, or we can play Here We Go Gathering Nuts in May, with the end part of it an ant's nest. It's all the same to me." There was a shout from the top of the line. "Come on!" called Christopher Robin. "Come on!" said Pooh and Piglet. "Come on!" said Owl. "We're starting," said Rabbit. "I must go." And he hurried off to the front of the exposition with Christopher Robin. "All right," said Eeyore. "We're going. Only don't blame me." So off they all went to discover the pole. And as they walked, they chattered to each other of this and that, all except Pooh, who was making up a song. "This is the first verse," he said to Piglet, when he was ready with it. "First verse of what?" "My song." "What song?" "This one." "Which one?" "Well, if you listen, Piglet, you'll hear it." "How do you know I'm not listening?" Pooh couldn't answer that one, so he began to sing. "They all went off to discover the pole, Owl and Piglet and Rabbit and all. The thing you discover, as I've been told, by Owl and Piglet and Rabbit and all. Eeyore, Christopher Robin and Pooh, and Rabbit's relations all went too. And where the pole was, none of them knew. Sing hey for Owl and Rabbit and all." You guys got me singing. Sharon, thank you. I forgot how many songs there are in this book. Thank you, Sunshine. I'm glad you enjoy it. Because it's either, it's either like you enjoy it or it's completely horrifying and it clears the room. "Hush!" said Christopher Robin, turning round to Pooh. "We are just coming to a dangerous place." "Hush!" said Pooh, turning round quickly to Piglet. "Hush!" said Piglet to Kanga. "Hush!" said Kanga to Owl, while Roo said "Hush!" several times to himself very quickly. "Hush!" said Owl to Eeyore. "Hush!" said Eeyore in a terrible voice to all Rabbit's friends and relations. And hush they all said hastily to each other all down the line, until it got to the last one of all. And the last and smallest friend and relation was so upset to find that the whole exposition was saying hush to him that he buried himself head downwards in a crack in the ground and stayed there for 2 days until the danger was over. And then he went home in a great hurry and lived quietly with his aunt ever afterwards. His name was Alexander Beetle. They had come to a stream which twisted and tumbled between high rocky banks, and Christopher Robin saw at once how dangerous it was. "It's just the place," he explained, "for an ambush." "What sort of bush?" whispered Pooh to Piglet. "A gorse bush?" "My dear Pooh," said Owl in his superior way, "don't you know what an ambush is?" "Owl," said Piglet, looking round at him severely, "Pooh's whisper was a perfectly private whisper, and there was no need—" "An ambush," said Owl, "is a sort of surprise." So is a gorse bush sometimes," said Pooh. "An ambush, as I was about to explain to Pooh," said Piglet, "is a sort of surprise." "If people jump out at you suddenly, that's an ambush," said Owl. "It's an ambush, Pooh, when people jump out at you suddenly," explained Piglet. Pooh, who now knew what an ambush was, said that a gorse bush had sprung at him suddenly one day when he fell off a tree, and he had taken 6 days to get all the prickles out of himself. "We're not talking about gorse bushes," said Owl a little crossly. I am, said Pooh. They were climbing very cautiously up the stream now, going from rock to rock, and after they had gone a little way they came to a place where the banks widened out at each side, so that on each side of the water there was a level strip of grass on which they could sit down and rest. As soon as he saw this, Christopher Robin yelled, "Halt!" and they all sat down and rested. I think, said Christopher Robin, that we ought to eat all our provisions now, so that we shan't have so much to carry. Eat all our what? Said Pooh. All that we've brought, said Piglet, getting to work. That's a good idea, said Pooh, and he got to work too. Have you all got something? Asked Christopher Robin, with his mouth full. All except me, said Eeyore, as usual. He looked round at them in his melancholy way. I suppose none of you are sitting on a thistle by any chance? I believe I am. Ow! He got up and looked behind him. Yes, I was. I thought so. Thank you, Pooh, if you've quite finished with it. He moved across to Pooh's place and began to eat. It don't do them any good, you know, sitting on them, he went on as he looked up, munching. It takes all the life out of them. Remember that another time, all of you. A little consideration, a little thought for others makes all the difference. As soon as he had finished his lunch, Christopher Robin whispered to Rabbit, and Rabbit said, Yes, yes, of course, and they walked a little way up the stream together. I didn't want the others to hear, said Christopher Robin. Quite so, said Rabbit, looking important. I wondered... It's only... Rabbit, I suppose you don't know. What does the North Pole look like? Well, said Rabbit, stroking his whiskers, now you're asking me. I did know once, only I've sort of forgotten, said Christopher Robin carelessly. It's a funny thing, said Rabbit, but I've sort of forgotten too, although I did know once. I suppose it's just a pole stuck in the ground. Sure to be a pole, said Rabbit, because of calling a pole, and if it's a pole, well, I should think it would be sticking in the ground, shouldn't you? Because there'd be nowhere else to stick it. Yes, that's what I thought. The only thing, said Rabbit, is where is it sticking? Well, that's what we're looking for, said Christopher Robin. They went back to the others. Piglet was lying on his back, sleeping peacefully. Roo was washing his face and paws in the stream, while Kanga explained to everybody proudly that this was the first time he had ever washed his face himself. Oh, I thank you for the teddy bear. And now I lost my place. And Owl was telling Kanga an interesting anecdote full of long words like encyclopedia and rhododendron, to which Kanga wasn't listening. I don't hold with all this washing, grumbled Eeyore. This modern behind-the-ears nonsense. What do you think, Pooh? Well, said Pooh, I think... But we shall never know what Pooh thought, for there came a sudden squeak from Roo, a splash, and a loud cry of alarm from Kanga. So much for washing, said Eeyore. Roo's fallen in, cried Rabbit, and he and Christopher Robin came rushing down to the rescue. Look at me swimming, squeaked Roo from the middle of his pool, and was hurried down a waterfall into the next pool. "Are you all right, Roo, dear?" called Kanga anxiously. "Yes," said Roo. "Look at me And down he went over the next waterfall into another pool. Everybody was doing something to help. Piglet, wide awake suddenly, was jumping up and down and making "Ooh, I say" noises. Owl was explaining that in case of sudden and temporary immersion, the important thing was to keep the head above water. Kanga was jumping along the bank, saying, "Are you sure you're all right, Roo dear?" To which Roo, from whatever pool he was in at the moment, was answering, "Look at me, I'm swimming." Eeyore had turned around and hung his tail over the first pool into which Roo had fell, and with his back to the accident was grumbling quietly to himself and saying, "All this washing, but catch on to my tail, little Roo, and you'll be all right." And Christopher Robin and Rabbit came hurrying past Eeyore and were calling out to the others in front of them. "All right, Roo, I'm coming," called Christopher Robin. "Get something across the stream lower down, some of you fellows," called Rabbit. But Pooh was getting something. 2 pools below Roo he was standing with a long pole in his paws, and Kanga came up and took one end of it, and between them they held it across the lower part of the pool. And Roo, still bubbling proudly, "Look at me swimming," drifted up against it and climbed out. "Did you see me swimming?" squeaked Roo excitedly, while Kanga scolded him and rubbed him down. "Pooh, did you see me swimming? That's called swimming, what I was doing. Rabbit, did you see me swimming? Did you see what I was doing?" "Hello, Piglet. I say, Piglet, what do you think I was doing? Swimming. Christopher Robin, did you see me?" But Christopher Robin wasn't listening. He was looking at Pooh. "Pooh," he said, "where did you find that pole?" Pooh looked at the pole in his hands. "I just found it," he said. "I thought it ought to be useful. I just picked it up." "Pooh," said Christopher Robin, "the expedition is over. You found the North Pole." "Oh," said Pooh. Eeyore was sitting with his tail in the water when they all got back to him. "Tell Roo to be quick, somebody," he said. "My tail's getting cold. I don't want to mention it, but I just mention it. I don't want to complain, but there it is. My tail's cold." "Here I am," squeaked Roo. "Oh, there you are." "Did you see me swimming?" Eeyore took his tail out of the water and swished it from side to side. "As I expected," he said. "Lost all feeling. Numbed it. That's what it's done. Numbed it. Well, as long as nobody minds, I suppose it's all right." "Poor old Eeyore. I'll dry it for you," said Christopher Robin, and he took out his handkerchief and rubbed it up. "Thank you, Christopher Robin. You're the only one who seems to understand about tails. They don't think. That's what's the matter with some of the others. They've no imagination. A tail isn't a tail to them. It's just a little bit extra at the back." "Never mind, Eeyore," said Christopher Robin, rubbing his hardest. "Is that better?" "It's feeling more like a tail, perhaps. It belongs again, if you know what I mean." "Hello, Eeyore," said Pooh, coming up to them with his pole. "Hello, Pooh. Thank you for asking, but I shall be able to use it again in a day or 2. "Use what?" said Pooh. "What we were talking about." "I wasn't talking about anything," said Pooh, looking puzzled. "My mistake again. I thought you were saying how sorry you were about my tail being all numb, and could you do anything to help?" "No," said Pooh. That wasn't me, he said. He thought for a little, and then suggested helpfully, perhaps it was somebody else. Well, thank him for me when you see him. Pooh looked anxiously at Christopher Robin. Pooh's found the North Pole, said Christopher Robin. Isn't that lovely? Pooh looked modestly down. Is that it? Said Eeyore. Yes, said Christopher Robin. It's what we were looking for. Yes, said Pooh. Oh, said Eeyore. Well, anyhow, it didn't rain, he said. They stuck the pole in the ground, and Christopher Robin tied a message on it. North Pole discovered by Pooh. Pooh found it. And then they all went home again. And I think, but I am not quite sure, that Roo had a hot bath and went straight to bed. But Pooh went back to his own house, and feeling very proud of what he had done, had a little something to revive himself. Oh, we're down to our last 2 chapters. Well, let's see. There's 169 of you, or 68 of you in here, and 144 new followers, and 70,000 likes. Yeah, I think Monday passed the test. And just so everybody knows, I'm not about stats, but it's just really cool. Wow. We're almost at 14,300 followers. That's freaking awesome. I think less than a year ago I was at 2,300. That's... Drucifer, no, you're really cool. Don't argue with me. Monday, yep. They do be going up fast tonight. I don't know, can you guys get up to 100,000 today? Can you? I'm not sure you want to be cool like me, because being cool like me is not cool. I've actually... No, this is a funny story. When I was in college, a very good friend of mine, and we just became really fast friends. And she said to me that she was going to her sister's party. And she said, my sister said you couldn't come. And I'm like, okay. I mean, I wasn't a party guy anyway, so it wasn't that big of a deal. I'm like, is there a problem? And she goes, my sister said, Jeremy's just not cool. I'm like, all right then. And you know what? Honestly, I wasn't. Oh boy. Well, enough of those shenanigans. Let's keep reading. Chapter 9, in which Piglet is entirely surrounded by water. It rained, and it rained, and it rained. Piglet told himself that never in all his life had, and he was goodness knows how old, 3, was it 4? Never had he seen so much rain. Days and days and days. If only, he thought, as he looked out of the window, I had been in Pooh's house, or Christopher Robin's house, or Rabbit's house when it began to rain, then I should have had company all this time, instead of being here all alone. He imagined himself with Pooh saying, Did you ever see such rain, Pooh? And Pooh saying, Isn't it awful, Piglet? And Piglet saying, I wonder how it is over Christopher Robin's way. And Pooh saying, I should think poor old Rabbit is about flooded out by this time. It would have been jolly to talk like this, and really it wasn't much good. Oh my goodness. Phew, indigestion tonight. Holy cow. My apologies. It would have been jolly to talk like this, and really it wasn't much good having anything exciting like floods if you couldn't share them with somebody. For it was getting rather exciting. The little dry ditches in which Piglet had nosed about so often had become streams. The little streams across which he had splashed were rivers, and the river between whose steep banks they had played so happily had sprawled out of its own bed, and was taking up so much room everywhere that Piglet was beginning to wonder whether it would be coming into his bed soon. "It's a little anxious," he said to himself, "to be a very small animal entirely surrounded by water. Christopher Robin and Pooh could escape by climbing trees, and Kanga could escape by jumping, and Rabbit could escape by burrowing, and Owl could escape by flying, and Eeyore could escape by making a loud noise until rescued. And here I am, surrounded by water, and I can't do anything." It went on raining, and every day the water got a little higher, until now it was nearly up to Piglet's window, and he still hadn't done anything. "There's Pooh," he thought to himself. "Pooh hasn't much brain, but he never comes to any harm. He does silly things, and they turn out right. There's Owl. Owl hasn't exactly got brain, but he knows things. He would know the right thing to do when surrounded by water. There's Rabbit. He hasn't learned in books, but he can always think of a clever plan. There's Kanga. She isn't clever. Kanga isn't, but she would be so anxious about Roo that she would do a good thing to do without thinking about it. And then there's Eeyore. And Eeyore is so miserable anyhow that he wouldn't mind about this. But I wonder what Christopher Robin would do." Then, suddenly, he remembered a story which Christopher Robin had told him about a man on a desert island who had written something in a bottle and thrown it in the sea. And Piglet thought that if he wrote something in a bottle and threw it into the water, perhaps somebody would come and rescue him. He left the window and began to search his house of all of it that wasn't under water, and at last he found a pencil and a small piece of dry paper and a bottle with a cork in it. And he wrote on one side of the paper, "Help! Piglet! Me!" And on the other side, "It's me, Piglet! Help! Help!" Then he put the paper in the bottle, and he corked the bottle up tightly as he could, and he leaned out of his window as far as he could lean without falling in, and he threw the bottle as far as he could throw. Splash! And in a little while it bobbed up again on the water, and he watched it floating slowly away in the distance, until his eyes ached with looking, and sometimes he thought it was the bottle, and sometimes he thought it was just a ripple on the water, which he was following. And then he suddenly knew that he would never see it again, and that he had done all that he could do to save himself. "So now," he thought, "somebody else will have to do something, and I hope they will do it soon, because if they don't, I shall have to swim, which I can't. So I hope they do it soon." And then he gave a very long sigh and said, "I wish Pooh were here. It's so much more friendly with two." When the rain began, Pooh was asleep. It rained, and it rained, and it rained, and he slept, and he slept, and he slept. He had had a tiring day. You remember how he discovered the North Pole? Well, he was so proud of this that he asked Christopher Robin if there were any other poles such as a bear of little brain might discover. "There's the South Pole," said Christopher Robin, "and I expect there's an East Pole and a West Pole, though people don't like talking about them." Pooh was very excited when he heard this, and suggested that they should have an expedition to discover the East Pole. But Christopher Robin had thought of something else to do with Kanga, so Pooh went out to discover the East Pole by himself. Whether he discovered it or not, I forget, but he was so tired when he got home that in the very middle of his supper, after he had been eating for a little more than half an hour, he fell asleep in his chair and slept and slept and slept. Then suddenly he was dreaming. He was at the East Pole, and it was a very cold pole with the coldest sort of snow and ice all over it. He had found a beehive to sleep in, but there wasn't room for his legs, so he had left them outside, and wild woozles, such as inhabit the East Pole, came and nibbled the fur off his legs and made nests for their young. And the more they nibbled, the colder his legs got, until suddenly he woke up with an "ow!" And there he was, sitting in his chair, with his feet in the water, and water all around him. He splashed to his door and looked out. "This is serious," said Pooh. "I must have an escape." So he took his largest pot of honey and escaped with it to a broad branch of his tree, well above the water, and then he climbed down again and escaped with another pot. And when the whole escape was finished, there was Pooh sitting on his branch, dangling his legs, and there, beside him, were 10 pots of honey. 2 days later, there was Pooh, sitting on his branch, dangling his legs, and there, beside him, were 4 pots of honey. 3 days later, there was Pooh, sitting on his branch, dangling his legs, and there, beside him, was 1 pot of honey. 4 days later, there was Pooh, and it was on the morning of the 4th day that Piglet's bottle came floating past him. And with one loud cry of "Honey!" Pooh plunged into the water, seized the bottle, and struggled back to his tree again. "Bother!" said Pooh as he opened it. "All that wet for nothing. What's that bit of paper doing?" He took it out and looked at it. "It's a message," he said to himself. "That's what it is. And that letter is a P. And so is that, and so is that, and P means Pooh. So it's a very important message to me. And I can't read it. I must find Christopher Robin or Owl or Piglet or one of the clever readers who can read things, and they will tell me what this message means, only I can't swim. Bother!" Then he had an idea, and I think for a bear of very little brain, it was a good idea. He said to himself, "If a bottle can float, then a jar can float, and if a jar floats, I can sit on top of it. If it's a very big jar." So he took his biggest jar and corked it up. "All boats have to have a name," he said, "so I shall call mine the Floating Bear." And with these words he dropped his boat into the water and jumped in after it. For a little while Pooh and the Floating Bear were uncertain as to which of them was meant to be on the top, but after trying 1 or 2 different positions, they settled down with the Floating Bear underneath Pooh, triumphantly astride it, paddling vigorously with his feet. Christopher Robin lived at the very top of the forest. It rained, and it rained, and it rained, but the water couldn't come up to his house. It was rather jolly to look down into the valleys and see the water all around him, but it rained so hard that he stayed indoors most of the time and thought about things. Every morning he went out with his umbrella and put a stick in the place where the water came up to. and every next morning he went out and couldn't see his stick any more. So he put another stick in the place where the water came up to, and then he walked home again. And each morning he had a shorter way to walk than he had the morning before. On the morning of the 5th day, he saw the water all around him, and knew for that first time in his life he was on a real island, which was very exciting. It was on this morning that Owl came flying over the water to say, "How do you do?" to his friend Christopher Robin. "I say, Owl," said Christopher Robin, "isn't this fun? I'm on an island."
"The atmospheric conditions have been very unfavorable lately," said Owl.
"The what?"
"It has been raining," explained Owl.
"Yes," said Christopher Robin, "it has."
"The flood level has reached an unprecedented height."
"The who?"
"There's a lot of water about," explained Owl.
"Yes," said Christopher Robin, "there is."
"However, the prospects are rapidly becoming more favorable at any moment."
"Have you seen Pooh?"
"No. At any moment."
"I hope he's all right," said Christopher Robin. "I've been wondering about him. I expect piglets with him. Do you think they're all right, Owl?"
"I expect so. You see, at any moment—"
"Do go and see, Owl, because Pooh hasn't got very much brain, and he might do something silly, and I do love him so, Owl. Do you see, Owl?"
"That's all right," said Owl. "I'll go back directly," and he flew off.
In a little while he was back again.
"Pooh isn't there."
"Not there?"
"He has been there. He's been sitting on a branch of his tree outside his house with 9 pots of honey, but he isn't there now."
"Oh, Pooh!" cried Christopher Robin. "Where are you?"
"Here I am," said a growly voice behind him.
"Pooh!"
They rushed into each other's arms.
"How did you get here, Pooh?" asked Christopher Robin when he was ready to talk again.
"On my boat," said Pooh proudly. "I had a very important message sent me in a bottle, and owing to having got some water in my eyes, I couldn't read it, so I brought it to you, on my boat."
With these proud words he gave Christopher Robin the message.
"But it's from Piglet!" cried Christopher Robin when he had to read it. "Isn't there anything about Pooh in it?" asked Bear, looking over his shoulder. Christopher Robin read the message out loud. "Oh, are those peas Piglets? I thought they were Pooh's. We must rescue him. I thought he was with you, Pooh. Owl, could you rescue him on your back?"
"I don't think so,"
said Owl after grave thought.
"It is doubtful if the necessary dorsal muscles—"
"Then would you fly to him at once and say that rescue is coming, and Pooh and I will think of a rescue and come as quick as ever we can. Oh, don't talk, Owl. Go on quick." And still thinking of something to say, Owl flew off. "Now then, Pooh," said Christopher Robin, "where's your boat?" "I ought to say," explained Pooh as they walked down to the shore of the island, "that it isn't just an ordinary sort of boat. Sometimes it's a boat, and sometimes it's more of an accident. It all depends." "Depends on what?" "On whether I'm on the top of it or underneath it." "Oh, well, where is it?" "There," said Pooh, pointing proudly to the floating bear. It wasn't what Christopher Robin expected, and the more he looked at it, the more he thought what a brave and clever bear Pooh was. And the more Christopher Robin thought this, the more Pooh looked modestly down his nose and tried to pretend he wasn't. "But it's too small for 2 of us," said Christopher Robin. 3 of us with Piglet.
That makes it smaller still. Oh, Pooh Bear, what shall we do?"
And then this bear, Pooh Bear, Winnie the Pooh, FOP, Friend of Piglets, RC, Rabbit's Companion, PD, Pole Discoverer, ECNTF, Eeyore's Comforter and Tail Finder. In fact, Pooh himself said something so clever that Christopher Robin could only look at him with mouth open and eyes staring, wondering if this was really the bear of very little brain whom he had known and loved so long.
"We might go in your umbrella," said Pooh. "We might go in your umbrella," said Pooh. "We might go in your umbrella."
For suddenly Christopher Robin saw that they might. He opened the umbrella and put it point downwards in the water. It floated, but wobbled. Pooh got in. He was just beginning to say that it was all right now when he found that it wasn't. So, after a short drink, which he didn't really want, he waded back to Christopher Robin. Then they both got in together, and it wobbled no longer.
"I shall call this boat the Brain of Pooh," said Christopher Robin.
And the Brain of Pooh set sail forthwith in a southwesterly direction, revolving gracefully. You can imagine Piglet's joy when at last the ship came in sight of him. In after years he liked to think that he had been in very great danger during the terrible flood, but the only danger he had really been in was in the last half-hour of his imprisonment, when Owl, who had just flown up, sat on a branch of his tree to comfort him, and told him a very long story about an aunt who had once laid a seagull's egg by mistake. The story went on and on, rather like this sentence, until Piglet, who was listening out of his window without much hope, went to sleep quietly and naturally, slipping slowly out of the window towards the water until he was only hanging by his toes, at which moment, luckily, a sudden loud squawk from Owl, which was really part of the story, being that his aunt said, woke the Piglet up and just gave him time to jerk himself back into safety and say, "How interesting! And did she—" Well, you can imagine his joy when he at last saw the good ship the Brain of Pooh, Captain C. Robin, First Mate P. Bear, coming over the sea to rescue him. And that is really the end of the story, and I am very tired after that sentence. I think I shall stop here. All right, we're on our last chapter. I'm not cool. I'm just a guy who's reading some stories. Wings, you're nuts. Oh, now super cool. I think you're stretching it there. I'll accept cool, but super cool, I can't. I can't accept that. It's too much. Oh, you guys are the best. Ultra cool. Oh, geez. You guys are going to give me an ego complex or something. Oh, boy. Well, we have about a half an hour left, and I am going to finish the book, and then we can do our poll. Chapter 10, in which Christopher Robin gives Pooh a party, and we say goodbye. One day, when the sun had come back over the forest, bringing with it the scent of May, and all the streams of the forest were tinkling happily to find themselves their own pretty shape again, and the little pools lay dreaming of the life they had seen and the big things they had done, and in the warmth and quiet of the forest, the cuckoo was trying over his voice carefully and listening to see if he liked it, and wood pigeons were complaining gently to themselves in their lazy, comfortable way that it was the other fellow's fault. But it didn't matter very much. On such a day as this, Christopher Robin whistled in a special way he had. An owl came flying out of the 100-acre wood to see what was wanted.
"Owl," said Christopher Robin, "I'm going to give a party."
"You are you?" said Owl.
"And it's to be a special sort of party, because of what Pooh did when he did what he did to save Piglet from the flood."
"Oh, that's what it's for, is it?" said Owl.
"Yes. So will you tell Pooh as quickly as you can, and all the others, because it will be tomorrow?"
"Oh, it will it?" said Owl, still being as helpful as possible.
"So will you go and tell them, Owl?"
Owl tried to think of something very wise to say, but couldn't, so he flew off to tell the others, and the first person he told was Pooh. "Pooh," he said, "Christopher Robin is giving a party."
"Oh," said Pooh.
And then, seeing that Owl expected him to say something else, he said,
"Will there be those little cake things with pink sugar icing?"
Owl felt that it was rather beneath him to talk about little cake things with pink sugar icing, so he told Pooh exactly what Christopher Robin had said, and flew off to Eeyore.
"A party for me," thought Pooh to himself. "How grand!"
And he began to wonder if all the other animals would know that it was a special Pooh party, and if Christopher Robin had told them about the floating bear and the brain of Pooh, and all the wonderful ships he had invented and sailed on. And he began to think how awful it would be if everybody had forgotten about it, and nobody quite knew what the party was for. And the more he thought like this, the more the party got muddled in his mind, like a dream when nothing goes right. And the dream began to sing itself over in his head until it became a sort of song. Of course it did. And it was an anxious Pooh song.
3 cheers for Pooh. For who? For Pooh. What did he do? I thought you knew. He saved his friend from a wetting. 3 cheers for Pooh. For where? For Bear. He couldn't swim, but he rescued him. He rescued who? Oh, listen, do. I am talking of Pooh, of Pooh, of Pooh. I'm sorry I keep forgetting. Well, Pooh was a bear of enormous brain. Just say it again. Of enormous brain. Of enormous what? Well, he ate a lot, and I don't know if he could swim or not, but he managed to float on a sort of boat. On a sort of what? Well, a sort of pot. And so now let's give him 3 hearty cheers. So now let's and hope he'll be with us for years and years, and grow in health and wisdom and riches. 3 cheers for Pooh. For who? For Pooh. 3 cheers for Bear. For where? For Bear. 3 cheers for the wonderful Winnie the Pooh. Just tell me, somebody, what did he do?
Good Lord. While this was going on inside him, Owl was talking to Eeyore. "Eeyore," said Owl, "Christopher Robin is giving a party." "Very interesting," said Eeyore. "I suppose they will be sending me down the odd bits which got trodden on, kind and thoughtful. Not at all. Don't mention it." "There's an invitation for you." "What's that like?" "An invitation." "Yes, I heard you. Who dropped it?"
"This
isn't anything to eat. It's asking you to the party tomorrow." Eeyore shook his head slowly. "You mean Piglet, the little fellow with the excited ears. That's Piglet. I'll tell him." "No, no," said Owl, getting quite fussy. "It's you." "Are you sure?" "Of course I'm sure. Christopher Robin said all of them. Tell all of them." "All of them except Eeyore?" "All of them," said Owl sulkily. "Ah," said Eeyore. "A mistake, no doubt. But still, I shall come. Only don't blame me if it rains." But it didn't rain. Christopher Robin had made a long table out of some long pieces of wood, and they all sat around it. Christopher Robin sat at one end, and Pooh sat at the other, and between them on one side were Owl, at the other Eeyore and Piglet, and between them on the other side were Rabbit, Roo, and Kanga, and all Rabbit's friends and relations spread themselves about on the grass and waited hopefully in case somebody spoke to them, or dropped anything, or asked them the time. It was the first party to which Roo had ever been. He was very excited. As soon as ever they had sat down, he began to talk. "Hello, Pooh," he squeaked. "Hello, Roo," said Pooh. Roo jumped up and down in his seat for a little while, and then began. "Hello, Piglet," he squeaked. Piglet waved a paw at him, being too busy to say anything. "Hello, Eeyore," said Roo. Eeyore nodded gloomily at him. "It will rain soon. You'll see if it doesn't," he said. Roo looked to see if it didn't, and it didn't. So he said, "Hello, Owl." And Owl said, "Hello, my little fellow," in a kindly way, and went on telling Christopher Robin about an accident which had nearly happened to a friend of his whom Christopher Robin didn't know. And Kanga said to Roo, "Drink up your milk first, dear, and talk afterwards." So Roo, who was drinking his milk, tried to say that he could do both at once, and had to be patted on the back and dried for a long time afterwards. When they had all nearly eaten enough, Christopher Robin banged on the table with his spoon, and everybody stopped talking and was very silent. Except Roo, who was just finishing a loud attack of hiccups and trying to look as if it was one of Rabbit's relations. "This party," said Christopher Robin, "is a party because of what someone did, and we all know who it was. And it's his party because of what he did, and I've got a present for him, and here it is." Then he felt about and whispered, "Where is it?" While he was looking, Eeyore coughed in an impressive way and began to speak. "Friends," he said, "including oddments, it is a great pleasure, or perhaps I'd better say it has been a pleasure so far, to see you at my party. What I did was nothing. Any of you, except Rabbit and Owl and Kanga, would have done the same. Oh, and Pooh. My remarks do not, of course, apply to Piglet and Roo, because they are too small. Any of you would have done the same, but it just happened to me. It was not, I need hardly say, with an idea of getting what Christopher Robin is looking for now." And he put his front leg in his mouth and said in a loud whisper, "Try under the table." "That I did what I did because I feel that we should all do what we can to help. I feel that we should all—" "Hup!" said Roo accidentally.
Roo, dear,
said Kanga reproachfully.
Was it me?
Asked Roo, a little surprised.
What's Eeyore talking about?
Piglet whispered to Pooh.
I don't know, said Pooh rather dolefully. I thought this was your party. I thought it was once, but I suppose it isn't. I'd sooner it was yours than Eeyore's, said Piglet. So would I, said Pooh. Hup,
said Roo again. As I was saying, said Eeyore loudly and sternly, as I was saying when I was interrupted by various loud sounds, I feel that...
Here it is, cried Christopher Robin excitedly. Pass it down to silly old Bear. It's for Pooh.
For Pooh, said Eeyore.
Of course it is. The best bear in all the world.
I might have known, said Eeyore. After all, one can't complain. I have my friends. Somebody spoke to me only yesterday, and it was last week, or the week before, that Rabbit bumped into me and said, "Bother." The social round, always something going on.
Nobody was listening, for they were all saying, Open it, Pooh. What is it, Pooh? I know what it is. No, you don't. And other helpful remarks of this sort.
And of course Pooh was opening it as quickly as ever he could, but without cutting the string, because you never know when a bit of string might be useful. At last it was undone. Pooh saw what it was. He nearly fell down. He was so pleased. It was a special pencil case. There were pencils in it marked B for Bear, and pencils marked HB for Helping Bear, and pencils marked BB for Brave Bear. There was a knife for sharpening the pencils, and India rubber for rubbing out anything which you had spelt wrong, and a ruler for ruling lines, for the words to walk on, and inches marked on the ruler in case you wanted to know how many inches anything was, and blue pencils, and red pencils, and green pencils for saying special things in blue and red and green. And all these lovely things were in little pockets of their own in a special case that shut with a click when you clicked it. And they were all for Pooh.
Oh,
said Pooh.
Oh, Pooh,
said everybody else except Eeyore.
Thank you,
growled Pooh. But Eeyore was saying to himself, this writing business, pencils and what-not, overrated if you ask me. Silly stuff. Nothing in it. Later on, when they had all said goodbye and thank you to Christopher Robin, Pooh and Piglet walked home thoughtfully together in the golden evening, and for a long time they were silent.
When you wake up in the morning, Pooh, said Piglet at last, what's the first thing you say to yourself?
What's for breakfast? said Pooh.
What do you say, Piglet? I say, I wonder what's going to happen exciting today, said Piglet.
Pooh nodded thoughtfully.
It's the same thing, he said. And what did happen? Asked Christopher Robin.
When?
Next morning.
I don't know.
Could you think and tell me and Pooh sometime?
If you wanted it very much.
Pooh does, said Christopher Robin. He gave a deep sigh, picked his bear up by the leg, and walked off to the door, trailing Winnie the Pooh behind him. At the door he turned and said, Coming to see me have my bath?
I might, I said.
Was Pooh's pencil case any better than mine?
It was about the same. He nodded and went out, and in a moment I heard Winnie the Pooh bump, bump, bump going up the stairs behind him. And there you have it. Winnie the Pooh. So, let me set up the poll. If it lets me do it. Or not. There we go. Custom poll. Yes, yes. Set it for 5 minutes. Edit. All right. So, bear with me a moment. I am going to put the poll, put the options in. Da 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 da. See. All right, last one. Oh, good Lord. Apparently I can't type either. Alrighty then. Save. Start. Alright. There it is. The poll is live. Now there's 181 of you in here, so get in on the poll, man. I'll play a little music too. Oh, 27, 28, 29 votes. The poll is for the next children's book, Eddie. The options are A Bear Called Paddington, The Boxcar Children, Bridge to Terabithia, James and the Giant Peach, and Stuart Little. You will cry again. Well, to be honest with you, I've never read Bridge to Terabithia, so... Stuart Little. All right, I will mark you down for Stuart Little, sir. I got 40 votes in. There's 3 minutes left in the poll. Stuart Little, please. All right. Absolutely, Eddie. I got your back, brother. We've actually read Wind in the Willows. All right, get your votes in. Get your votes in on the poll. There should be a poll if you in there where you can actually choose the option, and it shows in there where the red fern grows. Yeah, I just got off
Charlotte's Web. I'm not going to read another one that'll kill me. Upper left corner. Yes. Nope. It should be up there in the upper left-hand corner, I believe. There should be like a little icon or something. 51 votes. Light blue wedge of cheese. 65 votes. 66 votes. We got 2 minutes left. Penelope, yes, I do read stories live. All kinds of stories. No apologies needed. I'm glad you're here. Yep, it's got a timer underneath it. Down to a minute and a half. You are very welcome. Thank you for coming in and sticking around. I appreciate you. Well, you know, some people just like to sit and listen, which is fine. I don't begrudge them. 7 Mars, I did it the other day to pick the genre for the Thursday night stream that I did. And everybody seemed to get in on it, which was really cool. So I figured I'd do it again for the next one. Yeah, Bridge to Terabithia is in the lead. 40 seconds. You don't want a tearjerker. Yeah, well. Oh, when you rejoined, it showed up? Okay, cool. Yeah, if you can't see it, go ahead and jump out and back in. There's 20 seconds left. Six, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So now what's cool is I can look at this list and I can see, you know, what else was second popular, which is cool. All right. So Bridge to Terabithia won. So next Sunday, that is what we will read. Yeah, I've heard. But I definitely, you know, was 14 votes for A Bear Called Paddington, which is another one of my favorites. The Boxcar Children had 14 votes. 12 votes for James and the Giant Peach. And Stuart Little came in last with 11 votes. Can we get to 200K? I don't know. You got 8 minutes. So, I have to make sure I have a copy of Bridge to Terabithia. Who knows? Alrighty then. That was fun. Yeah, that was fun. I have to do that more often. Thank you, Stephanie. I appreciate that. It is 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so wherever you are, you know. Good night, Songbird. So I don't know about you guys, but I think Monday's a win. I think Monday's definitely going to get added to the rotation. So, starting next week, I will be doing a live on Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Monday will be a kind of flex day. I will probably tie it to the Sunday live. Sunday, well, all of my lives are 9 p.m. Eastern Standard. But yeah. So but it's a flex. It'll be kind of like a flex day. I'll be mostly tying it to Sunday, and I'll be reading instead of reading just family-friendly stories on Sunday, I'll be bridging them between Sunday and Monday. And so, for instance, a book like A Wrinkle in Time or Mrs. Frisbee and the Rats of Nim, which took 4 Sundays to read, will now take a Sunday Monday and a Sunday Monday, so it'll be done in 2 weeks. So we'll be able to do more stuff, which is really cool. Wednesday and Friday will still remain what they have been, short stories that are in the strange, dark, and fantastic. Things like Edgar Allan Poe, Isaac Asimov, Arthur C. Clarke, H.P. Lovecraft. We've done some Stephen King, some Richard Matheson, some Ray Bradbury, and I have a treasure trove of old pulp magazines from the 1920s, 30s, and 40s, which are full of old science fiction and horror stories and just, generally weird stuff. So I have stories for years to come. So I'm happy to do it. I love doing this, as those of you that are here regularly know, and I appreciate all of you. I really do. I'm not sure what I'm going to be reading on Wednesday, but if you follow me and turn on notifications, which you got to go into my profile and turn on there's a bell, I think. And you go in and turn on the notification. You turn on for all, and you'll get notified when I post, and you'll get notified when I go live. And it's a fun time. And honestly, this space that we have cultivated here is a very kind and comforting space, and we all take care of each other. And that's really important to me. I kind of liken this to sitting around a campfire and telling stories. And that's why I love it so much. Well, yeah, Wednesdays and Fridays, I enjoy those just as much as I do the Sundays, because we get to read some really fun stuff. I mean, we read last Wednesday. We read Clive Barker's The Body Politic. Friday, we read 2 stories. We read a Richard Matheson story, and we read a Stephen King story, Uncle Otto's Truck, and I have no memory. Last week was kind of a blur. No, Tina, I'm glad, because that's really the whole point. I mean, I think as adults, we forget what it's like to be read to, and the comfort that comes with that. And I'll be honest with you, we read some dark shit on Wednesdays and Fridays, but it's everybody still just comes in and everybody relaxes. It's 2 hours at night away from the craziness of the world. I can't ask for more than that, and there's so many sunshine. Yeah, I told you. Penelope, that is exactly what a lot of people treat this. Oh, you had nightmares with the hands. Honestly, the first time I read that story, I had nightmares. I'm like the next morning, I'm looking at my hands and I'm going, we still good? But stories are magic. And I think we all forget that sometimes. We forget the power of stories. And doing this, I get to bring stories back that people haven't heard in a long time. And also introduce new stories to people. You know, there were people that have never read Charlotte's Web, only know it from the movie from the 1970s. And I got to introduce the book to people. You know, and on Sundays, we've read all sorts of stuff. We've read The Phantom Toll Booth by Norton Juster. We've read Wind in the Willows by Kenneth Grahame. We did a Christmas Carol around Christmas time for Charles Dickens. We did Madeline L'Engle's Wrinkle in Time. We did Robert C. O'Brien's Mrs. Frisbee and the Rats of Nim. We've done Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Some great books, you know. We did Mouse and the Motorcycle. Oh, 200K. That's awesome. Yay! So, and, you know, one of those things that just, I don't know. Yes, I forgot. Wizard of Oz. We did the Wizard of Oz event was cool because we had I had an artist friend of mine create the visual for it. It was great. And if you don't know, his name he goes by DK Art on TikTok. Give him a follow. His stuff is so good. But we did it we started it on Sunday, continued on Wednesday, and finished it on Friday. And it was great. You know, a lot of people have never read the book, you know, so I would like to do more of those stories too. I mean, one of them is the Boxcar Trip. Oh, we also did The Borrowers. That was a fun book to read. That was really fun. So yeah, I mean, this is just, you know, I mean, and one of the things that this does for me, and I get to spend time with all of you, a bunch of really kind and thoughtful people, but I also do audiobooks, like professionally, and this is such good practice. So it's yeah, I love doing it, and I will keep doing it. And you know, I've kind of floated the ideas of doing live shows in person in different places, and I actually decided I was going to go down to the library this week and talk to one of the librarians there about doing a live show read from the library, reading to kids, which would be so cool. Yeah, 196. That's crazy. Wow, that's insane. Just love it. So, you know, and you know, if I can make this work, and between doing audiobooks and doing this, if I can do this as like a job, I would love to travel different places and go live in different places and read stories that are from those places. Like my youngest daughter, she's 18 and she lives in Liverpool in the UK. I would love to go over there when I visit and do a couple of lives from Liverpool, you know. Yeah. So I think it's there's all kinds of possibilities, and I would love to go places and meet all you guys, you know, which would be so cool. Oh, Trixie, I appreciate you, but yeah. So and well, I'll do that, but that's awesome. I would love that, but not necessary. But if you guys do want to help support Storytime and what I do here, there's a couple of options. you can become a super fan. Or you can go to my page and there's an option for a subscription there. Yeah. So, well, I live in New York, so I can go. Pennsylvania wouldn't be that difficult to get to. But yeah. So yeah, there are a couple ways that you actually can help support what I do here. And as I say, it helps keep the campfire lit. Crazy Mama, I'm actually going to be in Michigan at some point this year because I got to go to. I'm going to go to Detroit to visit a friend of mine. Yeah. Oh, Jersey, yeah. This is like I've been up and down the East Coast. I would love to go west. Good night, Bonnie. You're very welcome. I'm glad you were here. My best friend lives in Washington State in Vancouver, which is, if you don't know, is just over the river from Portland. So I'm hoping to go out there at some point this year. Oh, Toby, thank you. I really appreciate that. I really do. Thank you. Well, it has been... Oh, can we get I would love to hit 200 followers tonight. I'm wondering if I stick around a little bit, if I can get 3 more people, because we're at 197 right now. Do I know the story of Krampus? I don't. Like, I know Krampus exists. That would be great. A whole group of people and just, yeah. But yeah, I'm going to be out there because hopefully this summer she's having a baby. So, yeah. Oh, 200. Krampus is creepy. There's got to be some good Krampus short stories out there. If you guys find any, let me know. I do have audiobooks on my YouTube channel. You can find me there under UndeadPapa. I'm actually going to be doing a lot of public domain stuff and putting them up there. Like, I plan on at some point doing an actual Winnie the Pooh audiobook and posting it on YouTube. If you go to Audible and search up Jeremy Thompson, I will type it into chat so you get the spelling. I have currently 6 audiobooks up there, and I am working on my 7th and 8th, both of which are like fantasy adventure. Yeah, that's what I'm planning on doing on YouTube as well as Wizard of Oz, because it is public domain. So, well, I'm going to call it a night. And I'll be back on Wednesday. I'm not sure what we're going to read, but I will be there. And I hope you will be too. I really appreciate you guys. Yeah. So, until Wednesday, please be kind to each other. And be kind to yourself, because kindness matters. And so do you. Thank you for being here. Good night, everybody.